Alrighty, today I'm joined by my friend Dylan, who used to be former product manager over there at Hulu, and he's going to be talking about his transition over from product manager to entrepreneur. Dylan, how you doing over there?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Can't complain. I mean, other than the snowstorm, biggest snowstorm ever in New York.
I feel like we break records every year for snowstorms lately.
Right, right. Okay. We're you've left LA, right?
I recently left LA, so my wife and I relocated to Dallas.
How's that transition like for you guys?
It's been good. We have family close by. My wife started a new job. I'm fully remote, so have that level of flexibility and still can work really well. It's actually better because I've got clients on the East Coast, so I'm a little bit closer to the action now.
All righty. So clients. So, I mean, essentially speaking, you made the transition over from product management over to, would it be safe to say like you're somewhat running an agency right now? Tell us a little bit more about what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. So I run On Bench. We're a full service software consultancy. We do two primary things. One is a lot of team augmentation for software engineers, data engineers, and analytics, product managers, and designers.
Mhm.
And we do some managed services. We're about 2 years in, fully bootstrapped, have 10 active clients. We've had about, I'd say, 15, 16 over our lifetime. Got really great results, very low attrition. We love who we're working with and, growing slow and steady. And it's been pretty great.
Well, so you're living the life right now because a lot of product managers, this is one of the things that they want to do is actually be able to apply their expertise at an
Yeah.
agency model. I mean, we're teaching our members right now for the program that we're hosting with Boss Foundry for product managers and other tech professionals that want to be their own boss, how they can get started on that as a freelancer. For you, I mean, how did you pick up your first client and what was that process like?
Yeah. So I think the original first clients I have were actually back when I was in New York and I was looking for a full-time position. And then I had a couple of opportunities that came up where I was a consultant, did some product strategy work, had a few interesting deliverables, and that was my first taste of it. After Hulu, when I was looking to either buy a business or try to do something on my own and leave corporate America, um, I happened like it was just by my reputation and my network. I got a couple of consulting gigs. And through that, I was kind of basically contracting with my current business partner that turned into a full-time partner offer now I run my own shop. So the first clients came from my network just by, hey, I'm struggling with this problem. I like the way you think. Um, and you've got some chops. Can you work on this with me? And it was just like, okay, let me. I think what was really important, and I think good product habit is what is your definition of done? What is your definition of success? And those are all necessary transferable skills to consulting because you got to know what you're producing for them in value and make sure that it's not so murky. And that was like the first alignment, making sure that I could actually deliver the value for my network and then go on and do it.
Okay. I think another question that people would be very curious about is, and I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it right now, but was this something that you were doing while you were still at Hulu, or did you make a clean break with Hulu and then just start? Or if you don't even want to talk about it, we could also leave it at
I
that.
did it after hours weekends. Like I definitely gave my full effort to corporate and to Hulu and I loved what I did too. But I think in any given job or corporate structure that anybody has, you have like any person has 100% of something of their talent to give. A lot of times the job that you have will take 40, 50, 60, 70% of what you have and you have like 30% that's not being used and it's up to you. Like, okay, great. I'm fine not fully developing myself in these areas or using my strengths or wanting to fix my weaknesses. Cool. I'm good with it. I was like, I'm still hungry for more. There's still stuff that I want to learn, I want to do. I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. So I thought, look, why rest on the, 50% that I thought that Hulu was getting out of me when I had some more left in the tank that I could use.
Got it. Income potential. I mean, are you, for the people that are actually wondering out there, well, let's talk about like effort to reward ratio, right? Do
Sure.
you feel that right now, are you putting out more? Do you feel like you're putting out more hours or less hours compared to Hulu? And in terms of like reward, do you feel like you're making more money for the same amount of time that you would have put at Hulu or like lateral? Just so people get a gauge of like what could be at the end of the rainbow for them.
I don't think I'm at the end of the rainbow. I would also say that your value comes in a few different areas. There is so much, like, income is one aspect, and I really mean that. I am making less money than I was at Hulu, but I also have no cap on my upside. And all the hard work and all the seeds that get planted that come over time will, accrue, and then I will get to reap the benefits. Whereas at Hulu, the stock at Disney would reap the benefits, and any corporate stock. And that's the trade-off. That's the risk you take. And you get a steady paycheck, health insurance, all those things, but they take the profits. That's the deal. Whereas when you run your own thing, you put in the time, put in the work, and then you get to accrue and reap the benefits. You take more risk with less steady income or less income, whatever it is, and you get to get the benefit. I think managing your risk is probably the way I would look at it. Like, I take on more risk, but I will get more reward doing what I'm doing versus on taking less risk and just having a cap on it.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the unsaid, what's not commonly said in the world of product management is what do you do when you leave product management behind? Because the way that I take a look at the game that we're playing right now in product is it's really like a sport. There's an evolutionary shelf life to how long you could be a product manager. And then of course, once you cross a certain age threshold, it gets harder,
Yeah.
like number of opportunities that can meet your income expectations as a W-2 employee start shrinking, right? So like when you're like 40 or 45, as a like or like 50 as a product manager, if you do get yourself in a situation where you're laid off or you're in a situation where you're feeling very bored at your job and there's just no, the
Right.
person right above you is not moving, there
Mhm.
is like very limited opportunities outside compared to when you're taking a look at the job boards like LinkedIn and Indeed, it's really structured on the 120K to I would say the 185K employee.
Yeah.
You're not finding like in a like the quantity of roles that can actually meet the 200, 250K threshold is not there. So if you're going to spend, I don't know, I think if you're going to spend like how long were you kind of juggling both Hulu and this like side consultancy at the same time?
Um, Not too long, I would say. And so my years at Hulu, I spent almost 5 years. I was like a little over 4.5 years at Hulu. And the first couple of years, I was just full in on Hulu, learning, loving it. It was so much fun. And then the pandemic kind of started to rear its head.
So
And like, that was like 2020. And so that's when things started to shift. And like everyone was home, and I was like, I had more time, I had no commute. And so I took advantage of that. I think you're right in the income target and like the trajectory, but I would also bucket that under the risk you take, because like if you're not also cultivating opportunities outside of your W-2 in whatever format that makes sense. If it's in product, awesome. You could be a writer, you could be a speaker, you could join boards, consulting is what we're talking about. You could do a bunch of other things. But if you're not doing that while just putting what you're effectively doing is putting all of your chips on this one W-2 job. And other people who are making structural decisions for you, band compensation, all those other things. You were handing that to somebody else. And I think that is where I felt really, really uncomfortable, that I am truly not the master of my own destiny. I think, just not that I know everything that's going to happen for me on the entrepreneurship. This might go belly up, who knows? But I am taking the right bets. I'm trying to position myself that this is the right move for me and my family. I felt that in corporate, like I didn't love what I was doing in terms of some of the bureaucratic things that kind of like need to do at a certain level. Wasn't happy with that. And I just was interested and curious about other things. And I wanted to go pursue it. And so again, I think it's a matter of risk of like, okay, well, where am I putting these unnamed type of bets? Because it's not always about compensation.
It's really not. I think the mindset shift that it's crazy for people that decide to make a leap into product management. They feel like they're taking such a big risk, and then when they go from product manager thinking about going into entrepreneurship, they also feel like it's such a big risk. For me, I've always thought that coming in as a former tech recruiter working at an agency, I always felt that uh, relying 100% on the W-2 where other people are making decisions for you is actually the most
Yes.
dangerous move, because as an agency recruiter recruiting for companies, you see firsthand exactly how quickly decisions can be made that has a direct impact on your future.
Yeah.
Is very often not backed with data. And
Yeah.
more often actually backed with just the feeling of like, okay, we're going in a different direction, or just
They
this.
take a look at the line item on the Excel sheet. If you've got a big number in your compensation with all in with your bonus and whatever, they're like, well, are we getting 3x the value that we're spending on this guy? And
Right.
like you have to, that's the math. And like it's I'm not gonna say unfortunate. I think it's just a reality that all employees, including me, had to come to terms with, that like if I'm not producing like two and a half, 3x my what they're paying me, then they probably are gonna make a harder decision at some point.
'Cause I feel like at least with an entrepreneur, you are going all in on a game plan that you yourself conceived. You're not executing or being forced to execute a game plan that you don't believe in.
Right.
Uh, I've seen situations where people were taken out of, okay, yeah, we want to put that project on hold, and this is actually what you're going to be working on. And they know full well the ending to that movie is going to be tragic. It's going to be a long, slow death. And they still have to figure out how to go ahead and make something work. And if you win in that domain, it's obviously it's a team effort, right? But if you lose, it's like, well, yeah, it's on you. But even though it's like the higher ups had demanded that this is the direction that we're going, which honestly speaking, it's not always the right direction, but
Yeah.
you actually don't really have a say in that. So you're expected to kind of clock in, clock out for a job that and I would be very careful about like how I preface this, because if you want to do more of the consulting stuff as like a tech person, you should go in there as a product manager with legitimate experience. And then obviously, I think every product manager, especially like half the people I talk to, have an MBA. So there's, whether they did it or not, they have like a pretty extensive network. But the only way people are going to pay you is if you have legitimate value to add. And that actually comes from like a proven battle track record of
Yeah.
like success that you can go ahead and deliver. But I think like within 3 to 4 years, once you kind of hit that cap, you kind of have to like look outside of what it is that you're doing with your time. So your time that you spent on bench right now, um, how'd you actually come up with that name on bench, by the way?
My business partner, full credit to him, came up with it. The original thesis was around serving other agencies and consultancies, and as a kind of service that could help leverage other benches. And so it was going to be a little bit of a dynamic play. but like now we have our direct clients. We also serve some consultancies, which is great. And so we're basically saying like we're on your bench, like you could leverage us for the talent that you need. But just to touch on what you said, like I agree with that kind of career trajectory. But I would also say, like, at a job, if you like the trappings of corporate America, and a lot of people do, I think it's like great. You get like what you're doing then. Like, you've taken in that risk and you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. I think that's really great. Like if you're learning, if you're being challenged, if you're being well compensated, then you're checking off all the boxes. But if you are not satisfied, or you don't feel like you're being compensated fairly, or you want to learn something and you feel a little bit trapped, then it's like, okay, how do I evaluate, what does an exit ramp look like, and how can I get there? And I think, we've talked about this, there's been a little bit of a reckoning in the market of like salaries coming down, job offers coming down, like the quantity, and a lot of people who were sitting pretty are now like on the hunt again. And it's like they took advantage of like the big packages that were coming out, and why not? That's what the market was demanding. But now that there's this correction, and they didn't cultivate something else on the side, or they didn't think about their exit ramp, now they're in a situation where they've got to be like, okay, well, where do I place my bets? And it's less about being prescient about it and more just how do you position yourself for what you really want to do, and not just getting comfortable in the situation and system that was given to you, and thinking about how to design your own system. And I think as product people, there is a bias for systematic thinking and like good process, at least in my experience and how I like to think about it. And I just kind of thought about it that for me. I'm like, okay, well, what are my contingency plans? How do I think about it? What are my probabilities of success? What data do I need to pursue this? What does the market look like you're a product too, right? And so it's just like figuring out how to chart that path for yourself.
100%, man. So we're like, counting in like it's already mid-month for February. What's kind of I mean, you're in it fully now. Like what's kind of the next benchmark or the next milestone you're trying to reach?
We are thrilled with being a capitally efficient company. We do not have a ton of employees. It's me and my partner. We have an ops lead, and we have 10 clients. We have figured out an operating model that scales with us, and we want to just keep going down this path. We like what we're doing. One thing I've learned about professional services, like my specific industry, is um, it is opportunistic. You can plan to some degree, but it's almost like you've got to be flexible enough to capture opportunities and not be so rigid on a plan that if it breaks, like you don't have what a thing to do. So you need to have like your toolkit, and you just got to be a little bit flexible, and just do the process type of activities that help lead to knowing more people, getting more clients, demonstrating what you can do, delivering on what you say, managing accounts, the whole operation that underlies it. And I think that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on building this machine. And so that's just we're happy on the trajectory we are. And I think just we're seeing growth, we're seeing positive results.
Absolutely, man. I mean, yo, I'm super stoked. I get to meet very few people in the product world that actually studied film like myself. And
Yeah.
I think those people are the most interesting people to talk to. I mean, I think my first like a film analysis class, I thought we were just gonna watch a bunch of movies and then talk about it. I was like, oh shoot, it's actually
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we would love to have you on as like a monthly guest and really just see how it is that you're doing. Yeah, let's set a date. I'm gonna set a date with you after this call for next month. But would love to go out there and just kind of track your progress out there because I think hopefully by the end of the year, it won't take that many people that long to start thinking of product managers that long to start their own entrepreneur journey. But
Yeah.
my mission for this is for the Boss Foundry channel is Product managers are essentially mini, like in a lot of ways, they are a mini CEO. They get some a good, a lot of some of the good and a lot of the bad about being the
Yeah.
CEO. The CEO gets a lot of the good and also a lot of the bad about being a CEO though too. So I think hopefully after like the next few months, more and more people actually, more and more product managers actually think about becoming their own entrepreneur because I think in this economy right now, we don't need more job hunters. We need more job creators in
Right.
the place. So thank you so much for making the time to come through. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you some more next month, see how things are going to go for you.
Sounds good. Happy to help. And yeah, it was great to be on. If I can be helpful to you or your audience, just, hit me up. They can get in touch.
Gotcha, man. I'll talk to you soon, Dylan.
All right.